Ninth Prince Hulkenberg has a secret so secret that it's a secret even from him secret. Got a bit lost in secrets there. In fact, the word is starting to lose all meaning. Secret. What even is that? But Hunter x Hunter chapter 402 left us with a series of compounding bombshell revelations to stack onto what chapter 401 built. It singles out three particular princes of intrigue, Benjamin, Cyreinic, and Hulkenberg, but the latter is the one that I am most interested in, because a letter has been written to Mr. Hulkenberg informing him of the truth of his birth. And coming right off the back of the revelation that beyond Netero may have a biological child amongst the 14 princes, the temptation here is certainly to wipe our hands, clock off for the day, and say, mystery solved, mates. That there Hulkenberg is the spawn of beyond Netero. But is that too easy? I mean, Togashi has been known to provide, quite frankly, fairly anticlimactic answers to big mysteries he set up. For example, in chapter 346, Togashi dropped the bombshell that one of the Zodiacs was a filthy traitor and set up a plot point of an exhaustive sort to determine who this fiendish informant was, only for Kurapika to whip out a laptop, point at it, and 2 chapters later go, the traitor was Sayu. You see, most authors set up questions as seeds, things to grow in the background and to be answered at a much later date. But Togashi doesn't care about that sort of stuff. So I can feasibly see him introducing a mystery in one chapter and then immediately solving it in the next. However, there's also another answer. Togashi could be using this as a red herring to point us in the general direction of beyond Netero. However, there's actually an extremely convincing non-Netero explanation for Hulkenberg's true birth as well. So we're going to cover that, and also there's something that you may have missed in this chapter, which is a likely assassination attempt that was carried out on Hulkenberg off-screen, and its conclusion means that we may now have an extremely dangerous man wandering freely amongst the black whale. So we have a very exciting series of mysteries to solve. Of course, the most exciting aspect of modern Hunter x Hunter is that sense of adventure we have from setting sail and leaving the human realm behind to explore the great unknown that is the Dark Continent. But being realistic, it's going to take a long time to get there. So in the meantime, may I suggest filling your adventure quota with the sponsor of this video, Sea of Conquest, an immersive adventure that sees you assembling a crew, building a mobile base, and challenging the world for the title of King of the Pirates. It's not quite as simple as setting sail, finding treasure, and getting a fun title though. There's a lot of depth and empire management involved, and a ton of in-world mysteries to solve in order to uncover fantastic hidden treasures. Along the way, you will of course face trials and battles and even craft your own wonderful flagship that would make even the Black Whale one jelly. And not only that, but the Sea of Conquest universe also has its own comic Cradle of the God, where our protagonists are working to make their dreams come true, but just like Nanika, there's a bit of a caveat to that. And the characters in this world need to be extremely careful with exactly what it is they wish for. This game is made for you. That's right, you, the person watching me on the train, on a toilet, on a beanbag, in a basement in need of a good cleaning. Wherever you are, this is the call to adventure. And you can and should answer it by downloading Sea of Conquest through my link in the description or by scanning the QR code on screen. And delay no further in commencing your quest to become King of the Pirates and proving all of those things that your father said about you were wrong. I believe in you. So definitely check Sea of Conquest out, but for now it's back to you, me. Alright, let's cover this beyond Netero business first. Because in our Prince examination, Hulkenberg, he was one of the stronger candidates to be his child. In fact, the only reason why he wasn't the prime candidate is because he and all of the other prince folk exist in the shadow of number 4. But let's take a step back and look at something that I saw pointed out after the last chapter. When we saw Longi's Nen curse, it was depicted as a single eye surrounded by what looks like divine script, and a comparison has been drawn to Hulkenberg's guardian spirit beast, which also has a single eye and what appears to be a circle of scribbles around it, which could potentially be more divine script. So being real here, I'm not sold on this connection, but because this is Hunter x Hunter, I don't feel like any idea should be overlooked. My initial reaction to this is that it's probably just texture. Texture that is quite inconsistent from one shot to another, like this panel where it's much more solid and less scribbly. However, the circles are layered in the same sort of way as the eye under Longi's tongue. So if Beyond is Hulkenberg's child, no, wait, other way around. Beyond was Hulkenberg's child, then we've got a whole different video to do. But if Hulkenberg was Beyond's child, got it, then possessing the same Netero curse in some form does make sense. And it would be rather sinister because it would imply that Hulkenberg and his guardian spirit beast are also intended to be a sacrifice for Beyond. Except Hulkenberg would probably be in a whole different tier of his own. We're not talking weak curses, we're not talking strong curses. This right here is a mega curse. And I have to to admit, I do like the idea of Hulkenberg being Isaac Netero's grandson if we continue to rally around him like the lower princes are doing, and essentially make this Netero a new world leader, and maybe help to fill the still very empty shoes left by his grandfather. The issue is that I don't think Hulkenberg is going in that direction. Fugetsu's letter to Hulkenberg reveals everything that the Justice Bureau had on the other princes, and that's because Hulkenberg is theoretically the prince most trusted to transmute that information into a good outcome, but this could be a big mistake. Hulkenberg's journey in this arc so far has been one of corruption. We've been watching a pacifist convinced to go to war, and every time he appears in front of us, Hulkenberg is a shade darker than before, both metaphorically on the inside and sometimes very literally on the outside. So dumping all of this information on him about the crimes that his siblings have committed, the sickening crimes, I think that's only going to reinforce his dedication to violence. And it may even amplify the degree of horrible things that he's willing to do to ensure that none of those princes eventually get the throne. So that's a thing that could happen regardless. But let's look at why Hulkenberg may very well be a red herring in this whole Beyond Netero issue. The first thing is that the whole situation feels a bit sloppy. I'm sure that the Karkin Justice Bureau are a very competent investigative force, but is Beyond really going to enact this convoluted plan just to get caught by them, by Kaiser? The answer is maybe, but his work so far has been practically flawless. Beyond has been planning this for half a century, so I don't know if he's left this secret so easily discovered. And if anything, this seems more like the work of someone within the Karkin Empire, someone who's being a bit less careful, like say maybe a prince, because we've already discovered all their crimes, except not a prince. In this case, the suspect that I am offering is a queen. As we've said before, Hulkenberg is one of 4 children of second Queen Dwazil, who has quite the genetically diverse assortment of spawn, and so I'd propose that the truth of Hulkenberg's birth is that he is not Dwazil's biological child, and that he actually spawned in at the starting zone within another queen. And to that I say hello first Queen Unma, who looks a disgusting amount like Hulkenberg himself. And Unma, mate, she is a bizarrely important character that we still have yet to properly meet in the series. In fact, this is the only canon image that exists of Unma, and the only reason why we have it is because Togashi did a very helpful Prince to Queen breakdown in chapter 374, but the absence of Unma is kind of insane to think about, because according to the Karkin hierarchy, Unma is the second most powerful person in this entire empire. Only King Nasabi can supersede her authority. So she is without doubt one of the most important influences in this entire contest. So how come we've spent so much time with bodyguard after bodyguard, but none with Unma herself? Well, it could be that Togashi is saving her influence for a later date, perhaps even this stage, the one that we're doing now, because exploring her story may involve revealing the truth of Hulkenberg. Alright, so I'm not going to claim that this is my original idea. I've seen this posted and talked about many times before. I have no idea who originated it because it's that old, but the proposal here is that Hulkenberg is Unma's biological child who was rejected by his mother, the first queen, for whatever reason. Maybe even as a baby, Unma was able to pick up that this Hulkenberg is a disgusting pacifist, and decided that he wasn't strong enough to win the succession contest, which she would have been aware of because all queens are informed of the eventual contest after pumping out their first child, because they are then charged with preparing their child for the contest. And it's interesting that both of Unma's legal children happen to be the front runners to win. First, Prince Benjamin with his political, his militarical, and his Nen advantages, and then of course the natural genius that is Saraynik. Unma may very well have seen it as not worth her effort to raise a child that she did not believe had the potential to win. She could be quite ruthless. However, second Queen Dwazil is, from everything we've seen, a genuinely lovely and empathetic woman who is pained by the very idea of this contest and has resigned herself to staying out of it. Every time we see her, she looks like she's given into despair. But with this empathetic nature, she could have seen Unma discard Hulkenberg and take pity on the child, the poor baby, and decide to adopt him herself. Because the fate that awaits illegitimate children is far from pleasant, as we see with Onio, Broccoli, and Morena. You're issued with 2 brutal scars and cast into the underworld with the promise of a swift kill murdering if you dare to interfere with public matters ever again. In terms of the Karkin hierarchy, I think this also makes a lot of sense. To me, it feels acceptable for the second queen to pick up the discarded remains of the first queen. The other way around would probably be quite controversial. The first queen adopting the second queen's child, because that messes with the hierarchy. However, I have a however for that in a bit. In this case though, I'd also propose that Tebepa might even be Unma's discarded child as well, because she looks very much like Benjamin and Queen Unma and not at all like Dwazil or Nasabi. Lazarus also doesn't fall into the typical genetic traits of either Nasabi or Dwazil. In fact, the only child I'm convinced biologically belongs to Dwazil is Camilla because they look far too much alike. So this entire family unit could be the royal equivalent of an orphanage, with Dwazil giving unwanted children a chance they were denied out of empathy. Maybe Unma discarded Tebepa because Tebepa's a woman. She could be that kind of person. A girl, that's not going to win the contest. But this could also be why Dwazil seems so unwilling to help Camilla, who ordered her to kill Hulkenberg, because she has legitimate motherly feelings for her adopted children. Just on that though, I did mention a however before, and that however is that this works both ways. Hulkenberg looks like first Queen Unma, but at the same time, Saraidnik looks like second Queen Dwazil. We've explored how Togashi uglifies Saraidnik in select panels, but most of the time he's presented as a very pretty man with quite refined features, none of which are really present in any of his alleged parents, even beyond Netero. But if you put him in a family photo with Dwazil and Camilla, I don't know, they look pretty spot on. So if you swapped Saraidnik and Hulkenberg, then everything it makes sense. Perhaps Dwazil is the true mother of the fourth prince, who first Queen Unma saw a lot of potential in and forcibly took him away. And then later down the line, Unma pumps out a disappointing child and says, Dwazil, look, sorry for the stealing that I did. Here, you can have this instead. And it would make the Hulkenberg-Saraidnik dynamic quite interesting as well, because they're on very good terms. Apart from Kacho and Fugetsu, they probably have the best relationship of all of the princes, so I could really see this swapped at birth narrative playing out. I should say this isn't necessarily an instead of solution, and all of the above could be true. For example, Hulkenberg could be the child of Beyond and Unma who was abandoned and then taken in by Dwazil. It gets real convoluted, but that's Togashi. And to add to this, Hulkenberg also has blonde hair like Dwazil and Camilla. However, relying on that sort of stuff gets complicated, because our one official image of Unma has been colored and she is also a blonde. However, I would strongly caution against using this as any kind of confirmation of anything, because when it comes to Shueisha's officially colored manga, more often than not, the author doesn't choose the color schemes of the very minorly featured characters. It's just too much work for someone to go through and select all of these designs, especially with so many characters. They're not doing that. They've got manga to draw. So these minor choices get assigned to colorists. And what you see happen all the time in other Shueisha series like One Piece is that the colorist will choose a palette that the author will then completely change down the line, like this one of Prince Gru. And Togashi is a much more hands-off author than most. So the official Hunter x Hunter colors should be trusted, I would say significantly less than most other series, even with the major characters, because sometimes they conflict with what Togashi himself has drawn. Most of the princes are good examples of this, like Prince Benjamin, who's ginger in the colored manga, but he was blonde as colored by Togashi himself. Same sort of thing with Tebepa. Officially, she has this lilac hair, but again, as depicted by Togashi, she's blonde as well. And Hulkenberg is the same. In the officially colored manga, he has brown hair, but according to Togashi, he has blonde hair. So we're not going to linger on hair color too much ever, maybe. But now let's move to the assassination. I didn't talk about this in the last video because I was more focused on all the Fugetsu stuff. With chapters like this, I'm going to say it again. This broke a Hunter x Hunter text quantity record. It is officially the most dense chapter in the entire series, and there was no way I could cover it all in one video. Actually, that's not true. I could have, but it would have taken forever to come out. And I am impatient as crap, and I'm assuming all of you are as well. But something very interesting has happened with Ninth Prince Hulkenberg. Recently, there was another rumbling, after which point Hulkenberg fell unconscious, which to me indicates that Hulkenberg has potentially used Possession Arrow to transfer himself into someone else's body. To briefly explain this, the last time we saw Hulkenberg was in chapter 386, having completed the body swap experiment when Sumidori woke up in his own body after having possessed Shikoku's body, who killed himself in front of 7th Prince Lazarus' room. I know, it's a lot of names and places, and I'm not going to explain how Possession Arrow exactly works in this video. I have a whole separate video just dedicated to Hulkenberg and that ability on this channel if you're interested. The important thing is that we know that this was an experiment to figure out exactly how the ability works. And while we, the readers, don't yet know the outcome of this, Hulkenberg certainly does. And what I will say is that the best possible outcome for Hulkenberg is that Possession Arrow allows him and his soldiers to possess those struck and then return to their own bodies after the possessed body is deceased. That's not a guarantee, but that could be where we're currently at here. Because if Hulkenberg has collapsed, and I think it's very possible that he has used Possession Arrow to transplant his what would you even call it? Soul, essence, consciousness, whatever it is, he's into another person. And that person is very potentially Balsamico Might, captain of 1st Prince Benjamin's soldiers, and a man who we saw in this chapter preparing an assassination attempt on Hulkenberg the day prior. It may very well be the case that Hulkenberg fired Possession Arrow in self-defense and then transferred himself over into the body of Balsamico Might. And if so, this is just devastating. devastating, because Might isn't just Benjamin's right-hand man, they're old friends, and this could lead to the greatest upset in the contest if Hulkenberg is able to use Might's body to assassinate Benjamin. To be clear, we don't know that's what's happened, we don't know what's happened, or who it happened to, but the pieces Togashi has given us adds up to this kind of answer, which would be a heavy loss, not just because of Benjamin, but because Might himself is an incredible force to be reckoned with, and someone who really does demand a video dedicated to him, as he is one of the most terrifyingly skilled Nen users currently involved in the Succession contest. And thanks so much again to Sea of Conquest for sponsoring this video and allowing us to bring you the best fictional hunter content possible as often as possible. Definitely check it out through the link in the description.